So the UN, I think it's the UN, the European Commission, so the EU sent a letter to Elon Musk, and he responded. Let's look at what what says. All right, so Theory Breton, might be getting her name or pronouncing her name wrong, said, with great audience comes greater responsibility, DSA. As there's a risk of amplification of potentially harmful content in the EU in connection with events with major audiences around the world, I sent this letter to Elon Musk. Dear Mr. Musk, I am writing you in the context of recent events in the United Kingdom and in relation to the planned broadcast on your platform X of a live conversation between a US presidential candidate and yourself, which will also be accessible to users in the EU. I understand that you are currently doing a stress test of the platform. In this context, I am compelled to remind you of the due diligence obligations set out in the Digital Service Act, as outlined in my previous letter. As the individual entity ultimately controlling a platform over 300 million users worldwide, of which 1/3 in the EU, that has been designated as a very large online platform. You have the legal obligation to ensure X's compliance with EU law, and in particular, the DSA in the EU. This notably means ensuring, on one hand, the freedom of expression and of information, including media freedom and pluralism, are effectively protected, and on the other hand, that all proportionate and effective mitigation measures are put in place regarding the amplification of harmful contexts in the connection with relevant events, including live streaming, which, if unaddressed, might increase the risk profile of X and generate detrimental effects on civic discourse and public security. This is important against the background of recent examples of public unrest brought about by the amplification of content that promotes hatred, disorder, incitement to violence, or certain instances of disinformation. It also implies informing EU judicial and administrative authorities without undue delay on the measures taken to address their orders against content considered illegal according to the national and/or EU law. Taken timely, diligent, unarbitrary, and objective actions upon receipt of notice by users considering certain content illegal, informing users concerning their measures taken upon receipt of the relevant notice, and publicly reporting about content moderation measures. In this respect, I note that the DSA obligations apply without exceptions to discrimination to the moderation of the whole user community and content of X, including yourself as a user with over 190 million followers, which is accessible to EU users and should be fulfilled in line with the risk-based approach of the DSA, which requires greater due diligence in case of a foreseeable increase of risk profile. As you know, formal proceedings are already ongoing against X under the DSA, notably in areas linked to the dissemination of illegal content and the effectiveness of measures taken to combat disinformation. As the relevant content is accessible to EU users and being amplified also in our jurisdictions, we cannot exclude potential spillovers in the EU. Therefore, we are monitoring the potential risk in the EU associated with the dissemination of content that may incite violence, hate, and racism in conjunction with major political and or societal events around the world, including debates and interviews in the context of elections. So in other words, they want Musk to censor Trump because Musk is interviewing Trump tonight on X, if you're not aware. I think it's 8 Eastern time. Let me clarify that any negative effect of illegal content on X in the EU, which could be attributed to the ineffectiveness of the way in which X applies the relevant provisions of the DSA, may be relevant in the context of the ongoing proceedings and of the overall assessment of X's compliance with the EU law. This is in line with what already has been done in the recent past, for example, in relation to the repercussions and amplifications of terrorist contexts or content that incites violence, hate, and racism in the EU, such as the context of the recent riots in the United Kingdom. Those riots were because the child of 2 immigrants to England killed 3 kids. That's why the riots sparked off. And a lot of the violence was counter protests from a bunch of illegal and legal immigrants in the UK. So them bringing this up really has nothing to do with a politician talking to a billionaire and making that conversation available to the entire world. Really, they're just trying to make sure that speech that they don't like is censored. Therefore, I therefore urge you promptly to ensure the effectiveness of your systems and to report measures taken to my team. My services and I will be extremely vigilant to take any evidence that points to breaches of the DSA and will not hesitate to make full use of our toolbox, including by adopting interim measures should it be warranted to protect EU citizens from serious harm. Serious harm as in speech they don't like? So Elon Musk decided to respond to her on X. Since she made that public on X, he just replied to it. And this is his reply. It's a meme. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what memes are. Basically, it's a picture and text underneath. So he posted, to be honest, I really wanted to respond with this Tropic Thunder meme, but I would never do something so rude and irresponsible. And then this picture. If you haven't seen Tropic Thunder, it's a movie that was made in 2008, I think, and it was a comedy that was quite vulgar, and it was also a movie/war movie. Yeah, and so little bit of violence, a lot of vulgarity, and a lot of tremendous memes came out of it. Robert Downey Jr. played a white Australian actor who was a method actor who really got into his roles. And in this role, in this movie, he was supposed to be a black soldier. So he got skin pigmentation surgery to make him black. And Robert Downey Jr. as a black man was so funny. So funny. Anyway, So he told them no. I guess is probably the cleanest way of saying that. And then later he also just posted this in general. Wise words from JFK. In 1946, the United States General Assembly passed a resolution reading in part, "Freedom of information is a fundamental human right and the touchstone of all the freedoms to which the United Nations is consecrated. This is our touchstone as well. This is the code of the voice of America. We welcome the views of others. We seek a free flow of information across national boundaries and oceans, across iron curtains and stone walls. We are not afraid to entrust the American people with unpleasant facts, foreign ideas, alien philosophies, and competitive values. For a nation that is afraid to let people judge the truth and falsehood in an open market is a nation that is afraid of its people." Those are very wise words from JFK. And I'm assuming all of the EU is in the UN, so they should be living up to this standard of the General Assembly resolution. Don't know why they're not in this regard, and I don't know why they've never sent Elon Musk anything like this before. It's odd that they would come out on the same day that he's interviewing Donald Trump to put this, because Trump has never called for violence ever. He has said some mean things to people. He called Roseanne Barr fat. That's not a nice thing to do. He's threatened a Taliban leader with drone bombing his home if any more soldiers were killed between that point and the withdrawal from Afghanistan. But as far as threatening people in an interview or anything like that, no, he's pretty tame in that regard. Oh, bombastic and a little bit rude, but he's never incited mass violence. The Jan 6th was, he said, peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. That sounds like the opposite of go and riot. But for some reason, the Jan 6th committee just didn't hear that part of his speech when they were going through the witch hunt that they did. Anyway, so Elon Musk, he's interviewing Trump tonight at 8 Eastern, so 6 Mountain. I'm excited to hear what he has to say. It'll be an interesting conversation between the two of them, I'm sure. And I think on both sides, both Trump and Elon Musk are going to get a lot out of it. A lot of Trump fans will be getting X accounts so they can listen to Elon Musk and Trump talk, and Trump is going to get a lot of people on X or Twitter that are wanting to hear him that may or may not be Trump fans. But that's all I've got to say about this. Pretty interesting that the EU was trying to influence elections in America. I seem to remember there being a huge problem with that, with another country reportedly trying to do that in 2016. But I guess if it's against Trump, it's not that big a deal. Anyway, if you like what I have to say, please like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.